Hi, my name is Kyle Clower and I'm with Serve Wisconsin. We are the Wisconsin National Community Service Board and we work the AmeriCorps programs at the state. Right now, we're talking to different AmeriCorps members about their service this year and how it was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're talking with Kati. So Kati, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yes.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Kati, could you start off by telling us a little about your AmeriCorps experience this year, including the program you're serving with and what your service looked like before the spread of COVID-19?
So I am in AmeriCorps' Farm to School program. I'm a farm to school specialist serving in Bayfield, Wisconsin at the school district of Bayfield. I have been mainly working with K through 5, so in the elementary, and have had the opportunity also to work with some high school students and a middle school class once or twice, the alternative education program. Yes.
Nice. What were some of the activities you were doing with the different students?
Well, so I was mainly with elementary, and during the growing season, we have a beautiful school garden. It's probably, I'm going to say, the most beautiful in the state because we have this amazing view. Bayfield, Wisconsin is right on Lake Superior, this part of this beautiful peninsula, and the school is up on a hill and we can look over across the lake, and then there's Madeline Island. So we would spend time with the students. We would spend time in the garden in the fall time harvesting. We harvested tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers. The cucumbers were definitely the favorite amongst the kids for sure. And it was really neat. I was able to collaborate with the Native American language teachers, the Ojibwe-Moan teachers, Native American language and culture. And some of the first classes we did in collaboration together, and we were able to sample some of the plants, so like cucumbers, tomatoes, squash, and then also in that time learn some Ojibwe-Moan, the names that we would call them traditionally here, what the Anishinaabe would call them here. And so we would spend time in the garden when it was nice and appropriate, not so much in the winter time. But then we do have a high tunnel too, so like a greenhouse. And we were able to extend the growing season using that high tunnel. So we were able to be in the high tunnel still in October sometimes, which was really quite wonderful. Even in November, we had, before the snow flew, we had some classes up there. And so they would also help with cleanup. We did some fall planting of garlic. And yeah, that was some of the awesome garden activities. We also had participated in the Great Apple Crunch in the garden space. And that was really fun. I collaborated with Foodwise and Stephanie Baker, who's up in my area here. And we hosted kindergarten through 3rd grade up in the garden and had apple scavenger hunt and a fall scavenger hunt, and then the apple crunch, which was really fun with some games too. Yeah. And then when it was still nice out, we were able to take some farm visits too with elementary and some high school. So we went and watched apples being processed, got to pick a few apples and walk around some farms. Bayfield is full of a lot of fruit and apple farms. It's really, really well known in the state for that. And we were able to do with some high school students as well. We went to Red Cliff Farm and picked some apples, processed them then, and made apple cider, which was a lot of fun too. So then transitioning into winter, it was a lot more in the classroom. We would do nutrition lessons. I think one of the fan favorites amongst the students was making local blueberry smoothies. Kids loved that. I think that definitely won me some brownie points. Yes. And so, yeah, it was a lot of nutrition lessons and health and wellness. Also in the classrooms, we did lots of taste tests. So we sampled local products from our area, pretty much all within 30 miles of the school, which was really amazing. Some local popcorn, local apple chips that were processed at Red Cliff Farm, dried there. And I work with the herbal medicine as well, so we were able to incorporate some teas, like milky oat top tea, some lemon balm too, so exposing kids to new flavors, both that they could eat and that they could drink as well.
And I know you mentioned bringing in foods for the tastings and then doing the tours of the local farms. Have been any other ways to help integrate local foods into the schools?
Yeah, it's been really great. We're starting slow in the school cafeteria and working with our food service director. And we've been able to work with Red Cliff Farm and offer local greens from the farm and maple syrup that they process as well. So the food service director is doing a great job of beginning incorporating more local foods into the school meal program. And I'm excited to see how that relationship will grow and the amazing work that she'll continue to do. And want to highlight too just how hard all of our food service directors have really been working throughout this pandemic and transitioning into offering full meals, breakfast and lunch, for the community members here in the Bayfield area.
And then, Kati, with your AmeriCorps service through Farm to School, working with students in schools, how did your service have to change once COVID-19 started spreading here in Wisconsin?
So, following COVID-19, our school at Bayfield, the school district of Bayfield, we were able to get technology out to a lot of the students, which was really amazing. Awesome effort by the whole school, teachers, administration, everyone, to connect with the students still. And the way in which I worked with lessons, I was added as a teacher to a lot of the classrooms, and then I was able to post lessons through the Google platform. I had completed most of my nutrition lessons, quite a few at that point, but I offered resources for following the monarch butterflies as they came back, and looking for pollinators, and posing the question to kids, what do we observe outside? What plants are starting to grow? Another really awesome thing I was able to do was send home seed starting kits to the students. Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. It was really great. After sending those home, I sent them home with the school lunch program, those free lunches that went out. And the parents were able to pick it up for kindergarten through 5th grade. And we sent home bean seeds, a little bag of soil, and then some planting instructions. And it was awesome because I received pictures back from some of the kiddos with their newly planted bean seeds and trellised so that they were ready to grow up. They were climbing beans. And that was a few ways in which I continued to engage with the students during that time. I also feel really fortunate because being a school district with a large garden and there not being a lot of people on the school grounds, I was able to be in the garden space and continuing to grow and plant food with the growing season. And having that high tunnel, that meant I could start planting in, I believe, late March. I was able to start planting. And so now I've been dedicating a lot of my time to maintaining that garden space, creating systems so that it's easier for whoever comes after me and whoever is in that space, so that it's a functioning garden space with a wash station, laying down wood chips, laying more foundational work so that it's just easier for people to be in that space. It's easier to manage, and ideally will provide greater access for students, teachers, community members going forward.
And Kati, I can only imagine how much work it is keeping to maintain the gardens over the last few months. What's happened to the different food that you continue to produce?
Yeah, and that was a lot of work, and it still is. Now we're in harvest season, and it's been really wonderful because all the food that I have grown, that we have grown, because I've been working with a few volunteers who have been so helpful and amazing. And we've been donating that food first to the Bayfield Food Pantry. Lots of greens, that's usually what it is here first, lots and lots of greens. And then now, once we're into those cucumbers, I said before that the kids really loved cucumbers. That seemed to be one of their favorite foods. So I grew tons of cucumbers, and now those are being donated to the Red Cliff Food Distribution Center so that they're going out in those summertime free lunches for the kids. Mm-hmm. And then also any other things that maybe the kids wouldn't like some squashes or zucchinis. They'll still eat them, but it's not their favorite snacks. I've been then sharing those with the Red Cliff Distribution Center to share with the elders of the community in Red Cliff.
That's great that there's able to maintain the school garden so it'll be functioning and whenever students are able to finally return to the classroom, but also be able to help provide food for some of the local resources as well.
Exactly, yes.
And then Kati, why did you decide to become an AmeriCorps member and serve with Farm to School?
So I have been a gardener most of my life. I'm really fortunate that I have a mother who was a gardener and always grew up with like a butterfly garden that I was in charge of. And, you know, my grandfather, he grew up on a farm, like a lot of people really in this state and probably around the world. And I finished my degree at Marquette University with 2 degrees in global ecology, so environmental studies essentially, and Spanish literature and language. After finishing that program, I was in internships in Milwaukee and was feeling like I needed a change. And so I moved from Milwaukee to pretty much the farthest away place you could be in Wisconsin still, and moved to the middle of the woods, very, very deep in the middle of the woods, and began growing my own food. And in that way too, just was looking for other work. It being a tourist town, Bayfield and this peninsula area, there isn't a lot of non-service industry work. And so I began working in the service industry and working at like farm to table restaurants and the local coffee shop. And just after a time, I wanted to find something else. It wasn't filling that need that I have for sharing my passions for healthy food and local, ideally organic as much as possible, or holistic, where we're working with the earth. It wasn't filling that need in the same way. And when I saw the opportunity, I had a friend who was in the position here at Bayfield School, in the farm to school specialist position. He was telling me about working in the school garden, and it just sounded so wonderful. And then that next year, it became available. And looking for some work that that filled my life with more meaning, it seemed like the best step that I could take.
That's wonderful. And then Kati, looking back at your AmeriCorps services here with Farm to School, are there any lasting memories or highlights of your service you might be able to share with us today?
Yeah, well, there's lots of things. One of the highlights is those blueberry smoothie making with the kids, because I brought all the ingredients into the classroom, and then we collectively with each student, having one roll to fill, adding the blueberries, measuring them out, or adding the banana or the local milk. It was just so exciting and fun to see how excited the kids were to try the smoothie, and offering, like different milk options, and seeing what sort of things the kids enjoyed. Yeah, and then everyone wanting the blueberry smoothie recipe to take home and just being so excited about it. Oh, that was definitely a highlight. And in the winter time, but like more in growing season, having the kids outside, and we went on some plant walks too with the 4th grade, and we're able to identify and talk about the ways in which we can work with those plants as medicine, like white pine for like respiratory, opening up the lungs, and colds, and cedar for that matter too. And so connecting the kids too with the plants that grow around us all the time, the ones that we don't even have to plant, who can be our allies and support us during times of COVID, during times of sickness, and during times of health. So being outside with the kids, that was just, and actually one other thing too, in the garden, we were growing nasturtiums. So those edible flowers that are kind of spicy, sweet and spicy, and having pretty much, I think most of the kids to try them, and just seeing like how amazed they were when I would put the flower in my mouth and that we could eat flowers. That just that brought me so much joy too.
And then Kati, with the farm to school term of service with AmeriCorps ending in August, what do you have planned for once your service concludes?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be serving again another year. So I'll be in this same role, being the farm to school specialist at the school district of Bayfield and continuing to work with the elementary students. I'm also excited to continue working with the alternative education program that's both a middle school and high school, because due to the pandemic that we're in and how there has been like seed shortages, the potential for food shortages, like kind of those scares, the alternative education teachers are excited and feeling revitalized to explore and teach the kids more about growing food so that we can have more food sovereignty and food security in our community. We are a small community and fairly isolated from even like, it feels like the rest of Wisconsin really being on a peninsula. And so teaching those kids about food sovereignty and how easy and fun it can be to plant seeds and grow food. So yeah, I will be continuing in this role next year. We'll see what this whole year shakes out like, unsure, but I have multiple options and ways, because now we have already been through that online platform, kind of working out some of those kinks. Going forward, I feel like I'll have a greater capability to connect and engage online with students if that winds up being the way in which we are. But also hoping that the kids will be back in school for at least a little while to be able to help with the harvest and think about plans for next year's growing season.
Well, thank you so much for coming back for a second year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great for the different ideas you're able to do to be able to expand out the programming as well, both due to what's going on with COVID and also be able to build up the resources over the summer to be able to then expand your own service with the garden access and other pieces next year.
Exactly, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then Kati, thank you so very much for AmeriCorps service this year. We really appreciate the difference you've been making for students up in Bayfield with Farm to School.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a joy and a pleasure.
And then thank you so much for sitting down to talk with us. We really appreciate you sharing your story and all the wonderful things that have been going on this year.
Well, thank you. Yes, we'll keep up the good work best we can.
Thanks so much. And then good luck with next year of AmeriCorps service. We really appreciate you doing the second year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.